Cacao is a new game by Z-Man Games. I played it and picked it up at Origins Game Fair 2015. The topic is production of cacao in South American, I assume South American, Central American jungle. The players control groups of natives that live in the jungle, explore the jungle, finding, discovering, developing plantations, markets. There are also other interesting things in the jungle: gold mines, temples, weird worshipping places. So you control your own little population and you're trying to exploit the resources of the landscape. A landscape that you discover and you form gradually throughout the game by placing terrain tiles that come out of a deck randomly, and so placing the tile in the right position. Placing each tile that you draw is a big part of the game, as it is exploiting the resources offered by the tile. I know what you're thinking. It's exactly what I was thinking when I first saw the game being played at Origins. Carcassonne. Yes, there definitely are similarities with Carcassonne, the board that you form gradually by placing tiles. However, there are also considerable differences here. The first and most obvious one is that you do not place meeples on the tiles, but you have two separate sets of tiles. One tile representing landscape and the resources that come from the landscape, and the other one having meeple symbols on the edges. This is a set of tiles that represent the workers that you have, and so it is not so much about taking control of specific tiles, but about combining worker styles and landscape resource tiles in such a way that you can gain resources and use them for various functions. This is the first and biggest difference. Let me show how the game works, and you will see that there also are the differences. Not so much maybe in the mechanics, but in the overall experience of the game. Each player in the game has a gamer board, such as this one, indicating the color of the player. This is where you place stuff that you collect. For example, where you place cacao tokens. So this is where you can store cacao tokens that you haven't sold yet. You can store up to 5 at a time. Here there is an area where you place these discs here, which you can collect during the game, and you can use them for a special effect during the game, or save them for points at the end of the game. Each player board also has a water track here, which, as you can see, is divided in various segments with values printed on them. You start here with a steep penalty of -10. During the game, you will collect water, hopefully for you, and for each water that you collect, you advance by 1 space on this track here. And the position in which you are at the end will affect your final score as a penalty or as a bonus, depending on how far you went on the water track. Each player has a stack of tiles, so you shuffle them at the beginning of the game. These are personal tiles, and after you shuffle them, you draw a hand of 3, and you form a draw pile with the other ones. There is another stack of tiles, which is super important, which is the stack of jungle tiles that you will use to form the landscape or the play area in the game. There are tiles representing various locations in the jungle, and you always start the game with a setup like this, with a tile such as this one representing a market. This specific is a market where cacao is sold for 2 jungle bucks. This is the currency. And then you have a cacao plantation. You place these 2 initial tiles in this configuration here at the beginning of the game. Now, a turn is extremely simple. During a turn, you select one of the tiles in your hand and you attach it to the jungle. Place new workers tiles, the ones coming from your personal stack, can be placed adjacent to jungle locations. And after you've placed your new tile, it may be the case that you also need to add a jungle tile. That is the case when you add a worker style and you form an empty space in the jungle that is adjacent to two workers' tiles. The way I see it is simply a 90-degree corner between two workers' tiles. Then you draw a card, a tile from here, and you add it here. So this is pretty much how the board will look like after a couple of turns. Of course, now I'm only drawing tiles from one player, but there will be jungle tiles alternating with tiles from multiple players, white player, yellow player, like that. So at the end you will have a sort of like a checkerboard like configuration with worker, jungle, and so on and so forth. After the tiles have been placed, you actually get to use the meeples, the graphic meeples, the hypothetical meeples that are on the tiles. When you place a new tile, you get to activate the resources of the meeples on the tile that you just placed. Basically, they perform the action of the jungle tile adjacent to where they are. Suppose actually that I placed these three meeples here by the cacao plantation. They produce 3 cacao tokens for me, which I can add to the board, to my player's board. If this is the situation of the tile that I just played, my 3 meeples here produce 3 cacao tokens for me, and here there is one that is going to the market to sell stuff. So I can sell one of my cacao to the market for 2 jungle bucks, and I get the corresponding amount of coins from the bank. It's pretty simple, as you can see. This would allow me to sell up to 4 cacaos, 1 for 3 and 3 for 2 coins, and so on and so forth. Different locations in the jungle allow you to do different things, and of course in different quantities depending on the concentration of meeples that you devote to each action. Here we have a mine. Each active meeple that goes adjacent to this simply generates that amount of points. Other things, very good cacao plantation tile. Here there are 2 cacaos per meeple. This is a temple tile. It's really not worth anything or not doing anything during the game, but at the end of the game, the player that has the majority gets 6 coins or victory points, and the second player in terms of majority dominance gets 3 points. There is the water, as we said. This will generate me 3 points of water, 1 point of water. And then the tile, if I can find it, with the stone wheel, which gives me this coin here, the stone here, which I add to my player board, and I can save it until the end of the game. Or later in the game, you can spend one of these to overbuild over a tile that you used before. That is, simply you take one of your workers' tiles, and instead of putting it adjacent to the tableau that you're forming, you put it on top of one of your previous tiles so you can activate the actions. So when you place a workers' tile, you activate the actions generated by the meeples in the newly placed tile. But as I said, you will also be adding jungle tiles, and when you add a jungle tile, then you activate the actions generated by the newly placed jungle tile. Which means that each meeple on the tiles that you have on the board will be activated exactly once during the game. Either when you're placing the tile with the meeples on the board, or in case you place meeples with an open edge, when the open edge is quote-unquote closed when you place a jungle tile. So meeples activate either when they join the board and they get adjacent to a jungle tile, or if they already are on the table when a jungle tile is placed adjacent to them. So the basic idea is that you're collecting money by collecting cacao, selling cacao, making money out of these gold mines here, and improving your situation when it comes to presence around temples and amount of water that you have on your player's board. You continue like this until the end of the game, and the game ends when all players have placed their last worker's tile. Once the game is over, you simply count victory points based on how much money players have made. You take possible penalties or bonuses into account, and at that point the player with the highest score is the winner of the game. So the analogy with Carcassonne is definitely there. Discover new terrain, discover new resources, take control of them. But I have to say, and I'm okay going on record with this, even if I may regret it later and people will complain because of the heresy, I like this one better than Carcassonne. I played a lot of Carcassonne in the past, maybe it's also just that I'm a little burnt out, but there are a couple of things that I like about this game that I did not like much in Carcassonne. Carcassonne can, while very light in terms of rules, can have a certain cerebral quality, a certain number crunching aspect as I'm trying to figure out exactly how many points you will get at the end of the game, and if I place this here, then all my farm will look all weird and strange, but it will score me 2 more points. There can be a little bit of analysis paralysis, but for a game that simple, it is not that hard for players to overthink a little bit about it. Cacao has less of a strategic nature and much more of a tactical nature because there are two sets of random elements here, the terrain tiles and the workers. Of course, if you know the game very well and you see the certain terrain tiles already there, you will know which are more likely to still be in the deck and to come out next, but there is no absolute certainty, and it is much more about reacting to what the 2 decks give you, the hand of tiles that you have, worker tiles, and the landscape tiles. It is also so much more immediate. It's not about long-term investment, it's about short-term investments. Top is like medium term, as you're storing Cacao and looking for a good market, and maybe you can choose to ignore a decent marketplace that is there out there right now, and you're hoping to get a better one to sell your Cacao at a better price. Maybe you have this awesome tile with 3 meeples and you have to decide where to place it. That's gonna be great wherever you put it, but you don't have many of those, so you're gonna save it for the opportunity that you see right now. Get a lot of Cacao or sell a lot of Cacao, get a lot of water. Or are you gonna save that for later, for an opportunity that may or may not arrive, because maybe things will work in such a way that that the players will lock you out of some opportunities. It is, to me, much more about grabbing opportunities than about long-term strategy building. Which is not something that is a bad thing. There are a lot of games that I adore, that I love, in which you do have to build long-term strategies. Here I just find it very charming to have a limited number of options. Within those options, the possibility of meaning like a terrain tile or 2 terrain tiles and 3 worker tiles. And yet, within that, a lot of possibilities of combining the elements in different ways, so that I don't have analysis paralysis, I don't have long-term planning paralysis, but I still have options and things to do. So you have that aspect there of a limited range of options, but a lot of flexibility in the way in which you can use that options. And most important, this very quick pace, this very fast-moving sense of action, in which I take this, I buy it here, I produce Cacao here, I sell it there, here's another tile, boom, done with my turn. Of course, you will want to take some time here and there to do your thinking, but the overall pace, the interconnection of all the elements, drawing, placing tiles, making money, spending resources, to me it just flows better. It flows more smoothly than in Carcassonne. The game looks beautiful, the tiles are very durable, the quality of the components is very high. I like it. I like this game very much. It may be seen as a Carcassonne variant, but with the more direct interconnection between actions and reactions, decisions and payoffs. To me, the pace, the flow, and the overall experience of the game is different. It feels more immediate, it feels more engaging. I just felt myself being more engaged and excited to play my next move than I was in Carcassonne. Also, I had the sense that sometimes in Carcassonne or other games of this kind, you lock yourself out of possibilities fairly early on. You see that no matter how lucky you're gonna be, you made some maybe pretty severe mistake early on, and now it's going to be very hard for you to catch up. Here there's a more of an open nature, a single market that comes out, a single lake of water that comes out may change things. What I'm trying to say is that the mistake early on is less harsh, less terrible in this system that you have in other games, not just Carcassonne, but other games of this kind in which there's a board that is built gradually. It is a more forgiving system. On the other hand, it means also that you can just relax at some point if you're ahead, because you still need to keep working precisely because the opponents can catch up, because the situation is so open and fluid that somebody who's a little behind may still be able to come after you and to reverse things later, especially if a couple of good lucky draws come out. Luck there, but not too much, and usually if a good tile comes out, you will be able, even if the opponent gets it, you will still be able to find a way of exploiting it. It is a matter of choosing how and where to concentrate your resources. Not just like, oh, you get it and I don't, but there is the stat that you get to use first and you get first choice, and I can choose how much I still want to invest on that second choice or go somewhere else entirely. A lot of options, a lot of flexibility in a system which is super simple per se, and it is even more, I find, easy to get into for most of us, more gamers out there who have played Carcassonne in the future. Cacao by Z-Man Games. It looks good, it's easy to learn, it plays well, and definitely enjoy playing this game.